Max Brantley reporting from Arkansas on Arkansas News for the Arkansas Times. Go to arkansasblog.com on your computer if you haven't before. We've dug up a mountain of information about the legislative kickback probe into how state money was spent by the Northwest Arkansas Economic Development District in 2013 and 2014. Representative Micah Neal has pleaded guilty to taking kickbacks for money that he directed to a health services agency and a college in Northwest Arkansas. They weren't named in his plea agreement, but reporting since then has identified Decision Point, the health agency, and Ecclesia College as the recipients of the money. Now, they've both said they did nothing wrong, and if kickbacks were done, it was by other people and they didn't have anything to do with it. Well, today I was able to report on subpoenas sent to that development agency for information for the probe that led to Neal's guilty plea. It indeed names Senator John Woods, Decision Point, Ecclesia, and a good friend of John Woods, in fact, is people that they were interested in and gathering information about for the grand jury that's considering this matter. This doesn't mean any of those people are guilty of anything, I want to hasten to say, but it does narrow quite closely to the past reports on who's involved and what they're looking into. Documents I obtained also showed the immense amount of influence that was built up by Ecclesia College, which is essentially a church and enjoys a church's tax advantage in getting money from legislators. It doesn't mean this money that legislators sent to them was illegal in any way, except perhaps unconstitutional in support of a religious institution. But legislators in Northwest Arkansas across the board, Democrat and Republican, have sent tens of thousands of dollars in money to Ecclesia College for scholarships, that is to pay for students, to pay the college to educate students, and for other purposes. It raises a lot of questions. Perhaps John Woods was the most influential player up there. More to come from him. He has not been charged with a crime. He is believed by many to be cooperating in the investigation. We shall see. In other news today, the Little Rock School Board, which amounts to Johnny Key these days since state took over the school district, says it will have a special school election March 14th on refinancing the district's 12 mills and bonded indebtedness. Now, this won't increase the rate on your property taxes, but it means it'll add 14 years of payments on your property taxes from bonds that otherwise would have been paid off. That'll amount to at least $350 million in new tax payments to pay for construction in the district. We don't yet know how the money is going to be spent. We know that it won't be spent by a democratically elected school board, and there's going to be resistance in some parts of the community for that very reason. I think the Teachers Association, which has been important in past elections, will have to support the tax increase to maintain good relationships with the superintendent. They're under fire already because the state education commissioner is a believer in the Walton Foundation School of School Reform, which says teachers' unions are bad things, and Little Rock is one of the last ones in the state. The legislature this morning gave committee approval to a 2-month delay in starting up the medical marijuana dispensation that was provided by a new constitutional amendment. There's some time needed, most agree, to get the regulatory process in place. I'm taping this as the House of Representatives is debating a proposal instigated by House Speaker Jeremy Gillum to let the Speaker take over appointment of all committee members. This is to make sure that Democrats don't work a scheme to get control of a committee as they did this year. He defends this as a needed administrative change. Democrats are objecting strenuously. John Walker wrote a letter to members saying that this deprives members of a democratic process and it's not the way to run. I expect the House, which has dominated Republicans, to pass this rule change. There's been very little talk really about another rule change that's not a good thing for the democracy, and that is a rule change that lets members of the House accept campaign contributions while they're in session during the physical session of the legislature. That is, lobbyists who are out there can write them checks while they're legislating. It's a bad practice. Gillum defends this rule change by saying that's the rule in the Senate. I don't think 100% wrong makes them all right, but I think that rule change probably is going to go through too. If you want some happy news, there's a nice picture on our blog, and you can go out to Little Rock Zoo and see them in person eventually. 3 new Maine wolf cubs out at the zoo. There's some furry, cuddly things. And finally, what would a day be without news of Donald Trump? He gave a remarkable extended news conference, his first in almost 6 months, at the Trump Tower today. It was a golden moment. He showered people with abuse, with bullying, with dishonesty, with misrepresentation, said a number of things that were demonstrably untrue, dumped on the media, refused to let CNN ask a question, put forward a lawyer to defend his business arrangements. That lawyer, by the way, works for a firm that was called Russia's Law Firm of the Year one year, just for a touch of comedic influence to the news conference. But I think that Trump probably won the day among the people that support Trump. His message is the media is out to get him. He's been unfairly smeared by a report that that intelligence officials have told him that Russia was trying to get compromising information on him. And in fact, there's an addenda to that report that claims an unsubstantiated matter that Trump was caught in a very salacious and compromising position in hotels in Russia. He says it's all fake news. Fake news will be what he says is fake news, and that's often real news, by the way. The question is whether people's attention span is longer than 140 characters. That's about enough for Trump, and it got him elected president. So I'm not ready to say the press, which didn't look very effective today, is going to be able to do much about it. On that sad note, I'll quit for the day. I'm Max Brantley. I'll be back tomorrow.